Hi, everybody, and welcome back to a new episode on the Center for Education Abroad's podcast, And So the Story Goes. Our first episode is about Madrid versus Barcelona, and we have Alyssa and Ian with us here today, so let's get into it.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Spence. I'm a senior at University of Rochester, and I studied abroad the past summer 2023, in Barcelona, Spain.
Cool. Hi, my name is Ian Arnold. I'm also a senior here at the University of Rochester. I'm also an ambassador here at the Center of Education Abroad, and I studied abroad the spring 2023, so last spring, in Madrid, Spain.
So I think the biggest question we get is, what is the biggest difference between Barcelona and Spain?
So obviously most of my time was spent in Madrid, but I did go to Barcelona, and I have been before my study abroad. And I would say the main differences are just how the city is laid out. Like Madrid, I feel like is very open and it's very easy to get around. And everyone is really pretty nice with foreigners. At least in my experience when I was in Barcelona, it wasn't as easy to get around. Besides Castilian Spanish, they also speak Catalan. And so a lot of the signs are in Catalan. And as someone who does speak Spanish, that was a little confusing at times because like, oh no, where am I going? And I would say the people of Barcelona, at least in my experience, were a little bit more closed off. But yeah, other than that, it was kind of the main difference for me.
I'd say in Barcelona, it was because I was able to, I had a host family, so I knew natives. I feel like that was kind of my guidance. And, my host family was really open to me. But I would say, in terms of strangers, I would agree that you couldn't go up to a stranger as much. And because they do speak Catalan there, if, you don't speak that language with them, it's kind of harder to follow because it just doesn't sound like Spanish at all. So you're lost in conversations with locals, and you can't really engage as much because it's a different culture. So
yeah, but Alyssa, you said you only spent about 3 weeks there, and Ian, how long were you there for?
I was there for 5 months, yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So we have two different experiences. How did you kind of plan out your 3 weeks so you could make the most of your study abroad?
I think originally I was I'm going to go to every different city around and try to explore. And I went to smaller cities. Sitges is a really nice beach area, kind of 40 minutes-ish, but I didn't go beyond 40 minutes drive from Barcelona in the city center because I actually really enjoyed just kind of wandering the streets of Barcelona. So on weekends, me and my friends would go to different cafes and different local restaurants and stuff like that. And that was a big part of my experience, was just I'm here in Barcelona. I've never experienced another country or culture that's so different from mine. So I just wanted to try the different foods and stuff like that and really get to know the city. So for me, it was a more intimate moment with Barcelona than kind of going and exploring different countries. Yeah, and then I also did a visit to London. That was my main different visit, and that was just a different country. But I felt like I needed a lot of time in Barcelona to really enjoy it, because if I had a 5-month program, I totally would have gone more places, but the 3 weeks was just centered around Spain.
Do you remember any of the cities? So I know you mentioned one city you went to.
Yeah.
Did you go, you really stayed within an hour radius of Barcelona?
Yeah, Montserrat is a mountain city that they have there that's really nice. And then there's another place I really liked. It was a little theme park called Tibidabo, and it's this little mountain theme park. I'm from Orlando, so I resonated with theme parks because I love Disney and stuff like that. So that was really interesting to me. But each region kind of has its with Catalan culture, kind of getting to know that was really interesting to me. So I wanted to go to the museums around and stuff like that more so.
And so what I'm basically hearing is that if you have a shorter trip, you really should get to know the city that you travel to. But in a 5-month-long trip, how did you get to know Madrid? So, Alyssa was saying that she walked around a lot, local cafes and stuff. Was it something similar in Madrid?
Yeah, definitely. So I studied abroad with IES Abroad. And basically the first 3 weeks that you're there, you can travel, but it's really strongly recommended that you don't. And there actually are highly recommended, almost required, if you will, excursions with the IES Abroad staff around different parts of Spain, as well as in the city of Madrid itself, so that you could get to know your city better. We also, when we first got there during our orientation week, few days that it was, we also had local students from the university come in and give us a tour of, okay, this is where the campus is. This is a really good place to go, depending on where you live. So like that was really nice to get to learn the city. And then other than that, it was just making sure that I wasn't always traveling and that I had time to explore the city. Because I did travel a lot and I do kind of regret traveling as much as I did because I feel like there were different neighborhoods or aspects of Madrid that I didn't get to learn or experience as much as I could have if I, just focus on staying in Madrid.
Do you have any recommendations for someone going to Madrid?
Oh, I have so many recommendations. First, definitely visit the Retiro, which is basically, think of New York City Central Park. It's the Central Park of Madrid. It's huge. There's a ton of fountains. There's boats that you can, like rowboats that you can go out and rent and ride across the water. It's just like a really pretty place. If you ever want to have lunch there, highly, highly recommend it. I'd visit El Palacio Real, which is the Royal Palace of Spain. It's now actually a museum when not used for royal or state functions. So it's a museum most of the time, and it's really pretty and it's really cool to see all of the architecture and the history of Spain, if you will. Other than that, I really would just recommend picking a metro stop, getting lost, and figuring out how to get home. That's kind of how I learned the city the best, is just walking around, like Alyssa said. And yeah, it was great. You find a lot of really fun coffee shops that way.
Do you have any specific recommendations for Barcelona?
The beach there is just so nice. And if you go to like, oh my gosh, there's like a castle. It's really popular. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name right now. But like, it's where they did like the Olympics. They have like an Olympic museum up there. And then from there, like you can see like basically there are a lot of outlook places in Barcelona. I think that's one of the nicest aspects. So that castle, if you go there, you'll definitely know the name. In my brain's just kind of blanking. But that castle, going to the bunkers is a really popular spot to outlook in Barcelona. Park Güell is like a huge place. But I would just recommend any of the Gaudi works that you can have access to, because Casa Batlló is really popular there. And then he has a bunch of other, Casa Mila, a bunch of other works that he's done, and they're like some of the most incredible architecture in the world. And then I was really lucky to live next to Sagrada Familia, which is the like prettiest, most like breathtaking cathedral that exists, I guess people say in the world, but like at least in Europe, I can speak to, like, it's definitely one of the prettiest things that you'll see. And it's super unique, and there's a really awesome story behind it. I like took a lot of time to like just listen to podcasts while I was walking through, or like finding guides from there, like kind of depending on the neighborhood that you're in, to see like how that connects with Gaudi's work, or like the kind of architecture that they have in each region, because Barcelona has a really interesting history based on the works that are done and like architecture you see, which I really liked. So I thought the neighborhoods were really unique.
Was it by any chance called Montjuic?
Yeah, Montjuic. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So Montjuic is the castle I'd recommend.
And I know Madrid has a pretty nice metro system. How'd you get around in Barcelona?
The metro system was also really easy. When I first got off from the airport, I was really overwhelmed because, like, oh my God, I don't speak Spanish personally, which is a big barrier for being in Spain. But I picked it up very fast, I guess. But like just getting a taxi, I was like, how do I do that? And it was literally like you walk out the airport and there's someone who like points to you and is like, okay, how many people? 1, 2. And then like they literally get the taxi for you. So like they make things really easy for international people, I feel like. And then from there, the metro system, it doesn't work at all hours, but I know it works pretty much at all times. And it's like maybe like a 2-minute time difference of like when the next one is coming. So there's always one constantly flowing. And it's not really like New York City where you'll be like late if you miss like there's a 30-minute difference if you miss one train. Like you'll always have something coming next. So it was really nice.
Okay, so I'm guessing Madrid is like the same metro system.
Yeah, no, Madrid's the same way. It's huge. So it goes all over the city and actually into the surrounding suburbs, if you will. Not all of them, obviously, but quite a few of them. And what's really nice is they actually have both like the metro, but also commuter rail. kind of in the same station. So it's a really easy transfer to get to where you're going. And yeah, just like Barcelona, they come within 5 minutes. So it's really easy.
Okay, and I know anyone who travels to Spain always talks about the food. So how were your respective, food differences for Barcelona, for Madrid?
I mean, like, I feel like with Madrid, because it is the capital of Spain, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like there wasn't necessarily a dish specific to Madrid, at least that I learned about. There probably is, but I just never experienced it. But like in terms of like generally speaking with food in Spain, I really loved it. I have a host family in Valencia, so like I've had a lot of seafood from the Valencian region. Like paella is really, really good, and I highly recommend it to anyone who tries it, whether you get seafood or you get like traditional paella. But really, anything is very good in Spain. They also have tapas, so basically just small little plates where you have a very small portion of almost an appetizer, if you will. And so you can sample quite a lot of things with friends and family if you're out on the town, if you will. So I really love that aspect of Spanish food.
What about Barcelona?
Yeah, I would agree that tapas are huge in Barcelona. It's a very big part of the culture to just have like dinner very casually with friends. And it's like a huge part to that's like their main social hour is just engaging with friends over tapas. And my host family did it a lot. I mean, I was only there for 3 weeks, but I felt like I saw it a lot where it was just like shareable meals. And a lot of that ended up being pretty easy to learn how to make or like kind of do dishes with. One of the big ones is tortilla de patatas, which is like it would be an omelet in America. Like we would call it an omelet with potatoes with it. And it's like very common to just have that dish served with some like ham and cheese or like jamon is what they would call it. And it just kind of, you're more engaging with people and talking with people during your dinners. I think a big thing for Spain is the differences in times. They have a huge lunch and then the dinner is a very like how Ian mentioned small plates. So it's a lot smaller of a portion and you're just kind of talking and engaging with people rather than actually eating a dinner that we have in America. So.
And you both mentioned host families. Ian, you went on IES. What was your specific program?
Mine was called CIEE, and it's like, I guess, more of an exchange. From what I know, it's like they do shorter term periods or like maybe the 3-month period, but it's its own like separate entity. I guess IES is too, but it's not as common for Rochester students. I kind of found this one more through an internship I wanted to do, but yeah.
So how was your experience with your host families? Was it easy to integrate with them? Were they helpful in helping you getting to know the place?
Mine was probably very different because I don't speak Spanish and my host family only spoke Spanish and Catalan. So, it was a very different adjustment period. And I think it was kind of stressful because in my head, I was like, before I even started the program, in my head, I was like, oh my God, if I'm alone, I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm going to have to interact with these people just one-on-one. And if they only speak Spanish, like I'm going to have Google Translate out the entire time. So they only did speak Spanish. But luckily I had someone with me in my host family. So it was like, she spoke Spanish. She took Spanish all throughout high school, but she hadn't done it since high school. But it was like, she like very quickly was able to translate stuff. And I actually realized I was like able to understand stuff more than I thought because I took French before. So it was kind of an easier transition for me than I thought it would be. And I was able to just kind of pick up from there. But the language barrier was just more stressful than anything because I'd spend like a minute just staring at my host mom and she'd be like, what? And I'd be like, what? But like, it was like, okay. Like, and it was just funny because it's like, I would say like, no entiendo a lot and stuff like that. But like, I started to pick up more as the weeks got on, but it was also like motivation to want to learn Spanish more. So.
What about you?
Yeah, so my host family actually was from when I went abroad during high school. So I didn't live with a host family when I was in Madrid. But what I can say is I kind of regret it. I lived in an apartment while I was in Madrid with just other American students. But I really recommend a host family, specifically if you really want to up your fluency, because like Alyssa said, right, just being around people who speak a language fluently, even if you're not, you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, whatever, you're gonna pick up what they say in their mannerisms. And believe it or not, the way language works, right? Like you repeat a lot of the same phrases. So if you hear something, you're gonna continue to pick it up is kind of what I'm saying. So I really recommend living with a host family. just because if you are doing language immersion or that's something you're even interested in, they're going to help you. Additionally, like they also know that they're receiving someone who may not speak, Spanish at all or, the language at all. So they're, they know what they're signing up for and they're not going to judge you, right? They're not, that doesn't mean you're nervous, your anxiety will come down, but they understand that you're willing to learn. And so like I really recommend a host family because when I was in high school, I did an exchange. So, right, I had, her name was Lucia. She came to the US for a few weeks and then I went to Valencia for a few weeks. And, so if I didn't understand something, I could always ask her, but it was great. They show you the city, they show you the ropes and it's very authentic, right? Like you get home cooked meals, which abroad, it sounds like crazy, but like, I missed home cooked meals so much. So that was also a really nice aspect of host family too.
Yeah, that's how that was the main way I got to know Barcelonian food because it was like I would go to restaurants and they have like Italian, they have like every type of option that you could want, Italian food, Indian food, but like really being with the host family, they show you like the area, they show you their favorite restaurants kind of, then they want you to have like a more authentic experience. So they make sure that they accommodate for that, which is really nice.
Exactly. And they'll like also be like, hey, like, have you gone here? Or, hey, like, because Madrid's kind of a party city, have you gone to this club or this bar, right? Like, you really, really need to go.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool because I did have friends who were with host families and I do remember them just being like, okay, we need to go find this place, wherever it is, because like they're just recommending it so highly. So that's also a really nice aspect too. Or on the flip side, they're like, don't go to this specific neighborhood. It is really bad. Like, blank is whatever it is. Like, I remember there's this one part where prostitution was really bad. So I like never, ever, ever go there. So it was like, okay, thanks.
Big warning.
Yeah. So that was really nice too.
So if you did it again, would you stay with your host family again?
Oh, for sure. I wish I had a longer experience with them, obviously, but I think that like knowing what I know now, I think that a lot of my friends who didn't do a host family, they also regretted it. Mm-hmm. And they said that a lot of the experiences or like the immersions that I had wasn't as engaging of an experience for them because maybe it was like when we would go to a restaurant and we would order in Spanish, but that's not the same as like, oh, can you open your window? And you're like, huh? And then
yeah.
And would you stay?
Yeah, if I could redo my study abroad experience, I think I would. I think I kind of felt like really loyal with my Valencian host family because I'm still in contact with them today. Awesome. And I did visit them several times while I was in Spain. So I was like, oh, like if I get a new host family, oh, like what would they say? So it was like, there was kind of that in the back of my mind, although I don't think they would have cared, but I totally would have. I think it would have definitely upped my Spanish immersion experience.
And for one of our final questions is, what were your best and least favorite moments on your trip? So the highs and lows, basically.
Gosh. I think for me, the high was actually my actual Spanish class that we took. So because I am a Spanish major, I wouldn't say I'm not fluent, but my Spanish level of fluency is pretty good, I guess. So I really enjoyed the Spanish class that I was taking because it was all about colloquialisms and how like they actually speak in Spain or in Madrid specifically. And so we learned like a lot of new ways to use specific verbs that are used in everyday speech so that we could be like communicate more authentically or, more like a native, I guess. So like, I don't know, as someone who likes Spanish, I really, really enjoyed that and was definitely a high of my trip. I think a low, was just sometimes the loneliness that you can experience, right? Like, because you are alone, and even though you make like new friends, like they're not friends necessarily from your home university, right? At least for me, like my parents did not visit, so like they're all the way across the pond, if you will. So like, there's also that time difference with talking to my family. So I think like those bouts of loneliness, right? Like if I wasn't busy or doing something that day, or I was just by myself studying or doing work or whatever, it can be a little lonely at times, but it's okay.
How did you deal with that when you did feel that loneliness coming on?
Yeah, so I think like when I was lonely and I felt like that, I definitely reached out to the friends that I had made and was like, hey, like, do you want to go do something? Right? Like I was proactive about it rather than just being like, oh, like I'm really sad. Let me just wallow in my sadness. I really tried to be like, okay, like I'm feeling a bit down. Like, let's go do something. And if they weren't, or they were busy rather, I would just like go outside and go for a walk for like an hour or two or more, and just kind of get my mind off of how I was feeling. And even though I was still like alone, I wasn't in my head like I would be like in my room or something like that.
What about you, Alyssa?
I kind of piggyback off that of like loneliness, but for me, I was in Barcelona during peak tourist season, so it was kind of when things would be stressful, I felt like things would be like magnified because it was like it's stressful, and then there were also a bunch of other people from all around the world, basically, and you kind of are trying to like navigate like, oh, there's so many cool things that I could do and I want to do, but all of them are going to get booked up really fast, and I only have 3 weeks. So I think for me, it was kind of more of a time management stress thing, along with like, because it was a 3-week program, I didn't really know who I was going to meet or like what the timing of like things I wanted to do was. So I would just kind of like have to book things alone and then see if anyone wanted to come along after, if it was still available. So that was kind of part of it. And then I would say the high of it though is like, you kind of really just like, when you don't have as much time to experience all of the like big wonders, you kind of just want to like find little things that are really significant about the place. So I definitely, again, loved my time exploring and just going to like random areas and then like kind of trying to find my way back from there. And then like learning the different areas. And like, I felt like there were a lot of like significant things that I didn't really realize until I was there about just the way that like the city is designed and like the way that and really appreciating like the differences between American and European culture and like how those kind of change my perspective of like how I want to go about like maybe my future. But yeah, so it was just really interesting because then it's just like having a lot of conversations too with people my age who hadn't gone abroad before either, and like how important this was to them as well. So
Can you talk about some of those changes with American and European culture that you really want to integrate in your life?
Yeah, I felt like a lot of again, I feel like everyone says this, but the like working to live versus living to work aspect of life, just like kind of going around and going to the parks, and you would see people like with their families on like Tuesday at like 4 p.m. or like 3 p.m. and like random times. And it was just kind of like, okay, they probably just like closed up their shop to like just have more time with their family and hang out. And they have like really big lunches there, and like that's their time for them. And then they have a lot more holidays. So how I mentioned it was like tourist season and stuff like that. From what I know in Europe, it's like August, they have all off and they're able to like travel and kind of explore. So at least my host family had a holiday house where they're like, okay, well, we're actually leaving Barcelona for like the month of August, because I was in July, and then right after they went to their holiday, and they're like, okay, we're leaving for the month of August. And we're going to go to our family vacation house, and we're just going to spend time with family, and like that's going to be our experience. So it's just like, it's important to them to like make sure that they prioritize the people they're around in that part of their life. So it was really interesting.
And how, I know I said last question, but I lied. How was making friends and different? Because I know, Ian, you talked about, you might not be in contact with your friends back home. How do you go about making friends on your study abroad on a shorter trip and then on a longer trip?
Yeah. So I think like for me, right, like I was living in an apartment, so I had 4 other roommates. We were in an apartment of 5. So like I had fast friends, if you will, people that like I knew the first day of school and during orientation week. But I think like other than that, I think just really putting yourself out there. Like if you remember, freshman year of college, right, that first 2-3 weeks where you're just meeting people, or like even if you are more of an introverted person, like I definitely kind of am a more introverted person, believe it or not. You need to take that step, extend that olive branch, be like, hey, I'm Ian, what's your name? Like, where are you from? And just, you can connect that way. Being someone in STEM, I really thought there weren't going to be other STEM majors in a language immersion program. And that's completely not true. There were plenty of us. So like I could talk to people about like, oh, like, what are you doing, back home? Like, what class have you taken? What are your research interests? Are you going to grad school? But, I could also talk about, other things with other people. So just putting yourself out there, I think is the best way, and even if it's awkward, just move on. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, where it's like just putting yourself, like being outside and trying to like see who is like also willing to like have some similar interests. Like it doesn't have to just be, like discotheques. Discotecas are really big in Spain, and like just like going to like clubbing and stuff like that, but that isn't everyone's scene. You could also just do things like finding like paddle boarding or like interesting activities that like, obviously when you start a program, you have the people in your program, but you can just like kind of reach out from there. And like, if people have similar interests, maybe extend the offer of like, oh, I found this like program at 5 p.m. They're teaching paddle boarding lessons or like specific type of lessons. Does anyone want to join? Does anyone want to join for a painting class? Because it is a city and like there are other activities and events besides what you're used to with your friends. So just like, and you can kind of have deeper connections with specific people and stuff like that. And if you have similar interests. So definitely recommend like looking and seeing what's going on in the city and then like what you can kind of make from that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, you're good. I was just going to say, being that person, like you were saying, that makes the plans initially can also be a really great way to start making friends. Because it's like, well, you had nothing to do. I'm giving you something to do. And
Exactly.
So that's a great way to meet people too.
Yep.
Are there any memories you guys have of when, a new friend you made and any activities you did?
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to visit my host family in Valencia. And so I was like on a Monday, I was leaving that Friday. I was like, hey, I'm taking their like bullet trains essentially down to Valencia. And then I just left it there and ended up, 7 other people ended up coming with me. So it was kind of funny how that worked out.
Yeah, I think, again, just like kind of being the one to be like, okay, here's the plan. So when I went to Tibidabo, which is like the theme park I mentioned before, it was just like finding the bus up there. That was like the main task. And it's like, once you're up there, you can just pay for a ticket and it's fine. And then you spend the day at the theme park. So it was just like, I texted in, I think it was like people from my class. And I was just like, hey guys, like, I was interested in going to this theme park, and there's always going to be like at least one person who's like, oh, I've been like wanting to, or been thinking about this too. They were just kind of waiting on someone to be the first one to text about it. And that was like my favorite day in Barcelona personally, because it was really cute. It was like seeing like the children of Barcelona, because they went there for, a lot of them go there for field trips and stuff like that. So just kind of seeing like what like schooling is like in that culture and stuff like that, what their field trips are like. And then just having fun at a theme park with your friends in Spain. It's really fun as well.
Would you still recommend a shorter study abroad trip to other students?
I think that it depends on your intentions with it / what your goals are. I think because I just wanted to see more of like the world, obviously, but I had, because of COVID and stuff like that, I was kind of restricted. So my thing was like, before I am able to like, before I graduate, before I have to go into the adult world, I really just like need a cultural and more immersion experience. This is my best option for it. But I think if you have the time, it's also because I'm a STEM major, but if you have the time to do a longer program, really look into how you can make it work for you. And like the longer the time you have, the more you're able to do there. So personally, like I'm doing a trip to London in December because like I wanted to do another program. So like really seeing how you feel about being in Europe, because it's not going to be for everyone. There are also different countries to go to, like Asian countries, and just seeing from there like what aligns with your goals and the timing of it. I would try to do it as early as possible so that you aren't in a time crunch. But like we had COVID, so we didn't really have the same flexibility or opportunity. So,
is the London trip a study abroad trip, or is it just your personal trip?
It's a faculty-led trip here at Rochester. So yeah, I really liked London when I did my little like month there visiting. And I wanted to also get to know more of that. But for language immersion, definitely go to like the target language country that you can go to, because that's the best. That's like, I had to speak Spanish there, even though I don't speak any. So that was the best way that I could get language immersion and really get to know the culture.
Any last thoughts that you guys have? Any advice you'd give to anyone who is thinking about going abroad?
Yeah, I think like the only advice I'd give is really do your research, weigh your options. Like one thing I wish, if I could, change a little bit about my study abroad, was I wish I could have taken a chemistry class abroad. And I actually could have if I had switched 2 of my spring classes from my sophomore to my junior year and vice versa. Because we do have like an affiliation with the university. So like just do a little bit, do a lot of research. And obviously the Center of Education Abroad is here to help you with any of those questions as well.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming in and for talking about your experiences. We really appreciate it, and we'll see everybody next time.